Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/entitled Parent Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Karen cousin tried to steal my boyfriend. After that, make my job hard because I got promoted? No pay raise for you. And after that, you want the police involved? Okie dokie. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen does not get to steal someone's boyfriend. Fine by me. I settled for you a long time ago, Reddit boy. So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Karen cousin tried to steal my boyfriend. I, 18 male, have been with my boyfriend, 18 male, and we've been together since May of 2019. Last year, when everything started to shut down, my parents offered to let my cousin, Amy, 18 female, stay with us as she is immunocompromised, and her parents are both doctors, where mine are both able to work from home. Everything was fine for a while. We mostly kept to ourselves, did our schoolwork, and spent time online with our friends. A few weeks in, I was sat in the kitchen on FaceTime with my boyfriend. Usually I would have done this in my room, but my dad's office is next to my room, and he was on an important work call. She came in to get something and must have glanced over my shoulder and seen him. When I had ended the call, she asked who he was. I told her he was my boyfriend, and she just made the comment that he was cute. At the time, it didn't seem like it was going to be a big deal. But after that, whenever I tried to have a call with my friends or my boyfriend, she would come into my room. She tried to play it off as wanting to ask me a question, but it was happening too often, and she would keep asking, "Don't I get to say hi?" which I found odd. We go to different schools, and she had never met my friends or shown any interest in them before this point. And if my phone rang while we were in the same room, she would always ask if it was the cute boyfriend, and she started making comments about how she wished she had met him first. I asked her to stop as it was making me feel uncomfortable. It got worse. She found him on Facebook and started sending flirty messages to him. He blocked her, and she made a second account and continued until he blocked her again. She then got into my phone and found his number and started texting and calling him. She would leave voicemails, and it was always about how good she would be as his girlfriend and how he should leave me for her and everything she would do for him. He blocked her number. I told my parents what she was doing and showed them the proof, and they told her that she had to leave because she was making me so uncomfortable. I've not spoken to her since. My extended family are now trying to make plans for this summer, hoping everyone can get together. I'm refusing to go to anything she's at because I feel she would just try again. Everyone except my parents are telling me that I'm ruining the plans just to be spiteful, as she has apologized. A non-sincere apology when she realized my parents were serious about her going back home. I feel like a jerk because it means we can't have any family plans, and I'm essentially making everyone choose between us. But I don't want to be around her if she's going to keep making me uncomfortable. Well, what would you do in this situation? Would you go to the family events if you knew the cousin would be there or not? Please let us know. I would go, and I'd remind my cousin of how stupid she looked when she tried to steal my boyfriend. I'd let everyone else know about it too. Make my job harder because I got promoted? No pay raise for you. I was offered a job role in mid-2019 in middle management at an aged care service. The GM that hired me worked with me previously, and we both had similar vision and expectations. He helped me get a really good job with his reference, and he ended up moving to another organization as a general manager, which was well-deserved. A year later, he called me up, and he had a role for me and wanted me to come across to his agency. The team I ended up managing had a senior employee we will call Karen, a woman in her 40s, an actual Karen haircut, and large rectangle spectacles with the reddest lipstick and smelled like a department store fragrance section, who claimed to know everything and had been in the organization for 9 years. She was expecting to be given the role due to her seniority and was highly agitated once she found out that the GM had brought in an ex-colleague to fill the role. Karen was toxic and didn't take well to not automatically getting the management role, but also to me putting in KPIs and having clear expectations around the work which didn't exist prior. Her attitude towards me was nothing but disgusting and provided myself with nothing but resentment from the moment I walked through the door. One of the first conversations I had with Karen that never left me was when she told me, "You don't deserve this role. You haven't earned it." That sat with me for a while and played with my self-confidence, as this was my first management position where I was managing a large team. Our team was mainly young and easily influenced. Karen had been whispering rubbish into their ears and manipulating them into thinking I was out to replace them by implementing unrealistic KPIs. They were actually super easy. She also was BFFs with the state manager Sharon, which gave her a lot of protection. But luckily, our team didn't fall under the state manager's department reporting line. Sharon was known as being ruthless in her department, and everyone was too scared to oppose her. My revenge came through circumstance and a little through my own planning. I was enjoying the role, but have to admit that Karen made my job really difficult. Having an internal jerk in my team hurt morale, but also productivity. Karen didn't see the need for one-on-one catch-ups because apparently she knew more than me and it was a waste of her time. Everything I discussed was met with an excuse, rebuttal, or denial. I documented everything, and I knew she wouldn't read it, and she blindly signed it afterwards without reading it because it came back to my desk within seconds of me handing it to her. At the time, we were introducing working from home as we were running out of space in the office. All she kept saying is she wanted to work from home because of time, public transport, and the fact she probably wanted to do nothing and have no accountability. She would be the last person I would want working from home, as she is always blaming the computer for being slow, the internet, her keyboard not working, her VPNs not connecting, her database not logging in. She would be a nightmare and absolutely take the cake. Most likely just smoke all day and think this is the life. I provided feedback in our one-on-one catch-ups along the lines of smoke breaks are to be taken during your morning break, lunch, and afternoon break, not every hour for 15 minutes, leaving early without notice, and about her phone metrics around picking up the phone. We weren't a call center, but let's just say she had a 5% pickup rate, and she would be getting around 40 calls a day. Answering phones was beneath her, and the team was starting to get really annoyed because she was always smoking, never answering the phones, and always being negative. My team, God bless them, started to see her for who she was. Historically, the company had previously given everyone exceeds expectations on their annual performance review to keep a happy culture, which would ultimately lead to a remuneration increase and employees having a false expectations of rewarding subpar performance. Because she had a 5% pickup rate on the phones, took more breaks than anyone else, and did less work than anyone else, had a 50% attendance rate for team meetings, and also didn't listen, I gave her an unsatisfactory as an overall score, which was the lowest. Karen missed out on her RAM increase and was warned that she would be put on performance management if she didn't start showing improvement. I don't think Karen had ever been spoken to like that at work and actually given hard-hitting feedback. Karen was angry. Karen took me to HR, claiming that I was bullying, saying I gave her a unsatisfactory out of spite. I overenthusiastically provided the 15-odd one-on-one documents that we had both signed discussing her poor habits around breaks, punctuality, and KPIs. Karen was told politely that this was not bullying, but me managing and setting expectations for performance. This wasn't the last time she took me to HR, but I would say I had about 5 different discussions from HR regarding bullying of her. They were all her word versus mine, but that time I had proof and could refute her bullying claims. She read every one-on-one doc from that moment. A few days later, I was in the toilet washing my hands, but I could hear people out in the foyer waiting for the elevator. It was Karen and Sharon, the state manager. Karen was mocking and tearing me to shreds, and Sharon wasn't happy with the GM at the time either. I remember Karen very clearly saying, "OP is GM's mutt," and they all laughed. Apparently, I did hear all of the GM's dirty work, which I reflect on now and laugh, as all I was doing was setting expectations to which we were to work under. Karen from that day always muttered to me as Muttley behind my back. She even changed my name in her phone as Muttley. My team were providing me feedback that they are getting sick of her bad-mouthing me, which I really appreciated as they had matured a lot, and we were starting to build a strong culture aside from the jerks. General Manager called me into the office and advised me that my team, 15, would be working from home to free up desks as we were not essential to be in the office. This was before lockdown. The only catch is that one team member had to remain in the office in case someone walked in off the streets and needed information or other unlikely scenarios where someone administrative/intake had to be there. My revenge. Like clockwork, Karen would always take cigarette breaks at around 10 and would be gone anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes and would always be late or miss meetings if they were scheduled in that time, as it was her time to have a break with Sharon, the state manager. From our one-on-one catch-ups, the only thing she ever contributed positively for her development or future goals was the fact that she wanted to work from home. I came up with the perfect plan relying on her behaviors for this to work. I scheduled a meeting at 10 a.m. via email and requested all my team that it be compulsory to attend due to important changes and CC'd everyone important from our department into the email and invite. The day comes, 10 a.m., the meeting has started, and you guessed it, she was out having a smoke. I asked everyone, who would like to work from home? And everyone put up their hand. I advised that there needs to be one person who does remain working from the office and asked if anyone wanted to volunteer. No one volunteered. I smiled with joy, as I had given forewarning that this was an important meeting and the GM and another GM of a brother department were also in attendance, giving Karen no hope of arguing. She came in 15 minutes late with a coffee in her hand just as we were wrapping up and was wondering why everyone was so happy. One of the team said, "We get to work from home." She smiled and was like, "Great, when do we start working from home?" I looked up and grinned. Because you didn't attend the meeting, all the available working from home spots were allocated. You'll be required to still come into the office. She was livid and even threw her pin that was tucked behind her ear at the ground. "Why didn't you come and get me? You knew I wanted to work from home," she spat. I discussed in front of the team, the GMs, and Karen that it was compulsory to attend this meeting, which was clearly stated, and I'm not responsible for the time management of your day as you're an adult. Her BFF Sharon also received some bad news. Her position was made redundant and was demoted to another department and office, which meant Karen's biggest ally was no longer around to support her. The team transitioned into working from home, and I still came into the office. Why did I come into work? Because I wanted to keep Karen accountable by sitting next to her every day. The team took to working from home so well, and productivity went through the roof. I still remember sitting next to her and saying good morning in a nice loud voice to her. Karen had no one to manipulate, no one to complain to, and no one to whisper poison to about me anymore. Well, no one that cared. As I mentioned earlier, she used to call me Muttley behind my back. So on my 3 screens, I put the background as Muttley, and my work mobile ringtone was now Muttley's laugh. She would have heard Muttley's laugh 20 times per day. As expected, I saw her on a job website looking for jobs and blatantly not caring if I saw. I got a phone call from my previous employer, Megan, who I was still on good speaking terms with, and Megan asked if I worked with a Karen. I said I did, and Megan told me that Karen had applied for a role at Happy Care, not real name, asked me to speak about Karen's character, and wondered why I wasn't listed as a reference. We actually caught up for a drink, and I told Megan the whole story of how Karen was lazy, a manipulator, and just not a nice person. Karen was applying for a management position, and I advised heavily against hiring Karen. Megan called Karen right there and then, and asked about her references and her current supervisor. She discussed that her manager was her BFF Sharon, the former state manager, and was a great mentor, but she was outgrowing the role and the opportunity to grow was limited. Megan told her that she is not going to offer her an interview, let alone the role, as she was not transparent about her work history and falsifying referees. I can just imagine how confused Karen would have been. The next morning, I sat down and told Karen, "Megan from Happy Care says hello." Karen just stared at her keyboard wide-eyed and not saying a word. Karen ended up finding another job just before lockdown hit. They never called me for a reference check. For her departing gift, I made a Muttley "We Will Miss You" card that the whole team signed. I wanted to make one where you open it up and he laughs, but Karen was not worth the $45 it required to create it. No one actually wrote anything meaningful other than, "All the best in your new role." We had cake and virtual drinks for Karen's goodbye. Karen and I were sitting next to each other, zooming the rest of the team, and Karen left about 10 minutes in. I walked her out, took her pass, and wished her all the best. I started working from home the very next day, and still am to this day. The sweetest part of this story, the most satisfying part of this saga, is that her new job was made redundant because of lockdown, and she reapplied for her old job back. We were not actually hiring, but I made an exception and made Karen interview via Zoom with my 21C, whom happened to be one of the young staff she used to talk crap to me about, and clued on early that Karen was vile. We started the interview, and she couldn't have been more sweet, nice and two-faced. Her face was still as antagonizing as ever, and I could smell her perfume through the computer. It was still as offensive as it was in person. The interview was over in 5 minutes. I waited an hour and called Karen. "You don't deserve this role. You haven't earned it." Edit. 1. Thanks for all the awards. It appears from the comments that most people are pro-revenge and the other half are pro-me being the bad manager. Probably can agree that I was petty at some stage, but this was over the course of 18 to 20 months, so a lot of the stuff that didn't get written happened. I'll wear people labeling me a bully for those specific circumstances, but Karen was put on performance management and then passed, would slip back again because someone complained about her behavior, then I would raise it. I didn't micromanage her until we were both the only ones working from the office. She would have done nothing. For all of you questioning my management skills, the team is awesome. The culture is awesome. For change management to occur, you have to set expectations for performance, behavior, and excellence. Karen was threatened by all of this and didn't want to come to the table. Simple as that. 2. The previous manager was an old friend of Karen's and had allowed her behavior for years as it was the norm. Previous manager filled Karen's head full of false expectations, and Karen got a lot of bad habits from previous manager over the years. Over 10 people interviewed for the role, including Karen. I was the right fit for what GM wanted going forward. Karen expected it because she had been there the longest and was not selected because her workplace behaviors had been identified long before I started working there. 3. Our key performance indicators were based around customer service metrics, such as pickup rate, service rate, and handling time. We also had KPIs around meeting attendance. Because we were a medium to large team and some of the roles require you to be out on the road, there were targets around attendance for team meetings. No one got 100% back then, but 50% or less was terrible. Keeping up to date with online training was another big one. 4. Commenting on her appearance gives the reader a better understanding of what we were working with. With so much work-related trauma around false allegations and constant defiance, these are the things you remember about a person. 5. The words she said, and I quoted back, are as clear in my head as the day she first said them to me. It took me months to get my confidence back from that comment. 6. Former employer Megan called wanting to know if I knew her, as she knew I also worked in the same company. She didn't call for a reference check. Our offices were not too far away and we caught up for coffee. Nothing illegal from where I'm from. She did falsify her references as she had never been supervised or worked under Sharon. Well, what do you think? Is OP a mean bully or did Karen get what she deserved? Please let us know. I think Karen got what she deserved. You want the police involved? Okie dokie. So, the day after Christmas, about 10 years ago, my brother called me up and asked me for some assistance setting up some of his new computer equipment. He lived down the road from a store that specialized in discount china, so naturally it was extremely busy. Busy as in cars were parked everywhere, including on the grass in front of the store, and it was impossible to see around the corner if someone wanted to pull out of the furthest exit. Unfortunately, the speed limit, 50 miles per hour, is also extremely high on the road as well, even if you have to really try to accelerate to get to 50 miles per hour by the time you pass the store. So I decided to play it safe and was doing roughly half the speed limit, perhaps 30 miles per hour, while going around the corner of the store. Even at this speed, of course, some guy decided to pull out without checking, and I couldn't stop in time to avoid hitting him. Now, I was driving an older Mitsubishi that already had some damage, and he had a small dent in his fender. And come on, it's still Christmas, right? So I get out of the car, take a look at the damage, and turn around to see a furious, older, red-faced gentleman in front of me. Right after I tell him that it doesn't really look like much damage, so there's no need to contact the police, he proceeds to scream in my face about how I was speeding and this is all my fault. Oh no, honey. A young woman driving by herself may appear to be easily intimidated, but I was trying to be nice. If you want the police involved, let's do it, buddy. I called the non-emergency line, explained there was a very minor car accident and that the other driver was insisting that it was my fault, so I would feel better if the police were involved. The dispatcher got my information, stopped for a moment, and then quietly thanked me for calling the appropriate number. 911 was hardly necessary, and then told me that she also felt it would be safer for me if the police were dispatched. After a 30-minute wait, an officer showed up to the scene. I, not being a total moron, sat quietly in my car and waited for him to come over to me. The other driver felt it was necessary to leap out of his vehicle and run over to the officer and start screaming and gesturing wildly. I didn't catch what was said, but I did see the look on the cop's face, and I was getting more and more amused. After being clearly told to get back into his car, The cop came over to me and asked me what happened. I told him what was going on, and that not only had I not deliberately sped up to go the speed limit, I had actually slowed down because of how busy the business was. He nodded and went back to measure the skid marks on the road and confirmed he believed I was actually doing about 25 and complimented my thinking on safe driving in this specific situation. He then proceeded to write the other driver a ticket, and the other driver pulled out of the parking lot a second time with his window down, giving me the bird. At this point, the cop came over to me, explained that he wrote it up as the other driver's fault for more than $1,000 due to the damage on his fender. He also stated that, "Darling, I don't do this often, but I believe you should take that man's insurance company for every dime you can get. Thanks for insisting. We call the police." Make me hourly instead of salary because you're afraid I'll stop selling after I hit my commission cap? Okay. Years ago, I was an inside sales rep for a simultaneously large and tiny company in a niche market. The quotes are because it was at least equally outside sales. I just didn't go outside except to smoke. I've since quit. They had about 50 branches across the country of various sizes. The smallest was literally one guy who processed local orders and used hotshots for delivery. The largest had about 50 employees. I made 6 for my branch. I was literally the first salesman with a background in anything resembling sales that my branch had ever hired. They had always hired the least socially awkward industry professionals they could prior to me, and they had had their CSR doing the selling for over a year until I came on, so expectations were high. When they hired me, we had somewhat heated negotiations over the comp plan. It was a $42,000 base salary plus commission with a $56,000 OTE and $65,000 cap. I asked what I was meant to do after I hit the cap, to which they replied, "Continue to do your job," as if I wasn't going to have a problem with generating new business for free. I said that I was going to need a bonus structure beyond the cap if they wanted me to do any more hunting after that point. I made it clear that I'd service my accounts when they called, but I wanted to be clear that they were going to be disappointed if they expected me to make outbound calls looking for new business after I had maxed my comp plan, and that I'd definitely enjoy the extra time at home with my family over the holidays. They said they understood, and we went through the onboarding. I worked almost exactly 40 hours for almost 2 months, early October to early December, before I had jury duty and missed a day. My check was about $150 light compared to what it had been, so I complained to payroll. Benefits kicked in at 90 days. That's when I found out I was making $21 an hour and was not, in fact, pulling a salary. Presumably, this was to force me into the office, as we didn't have remote access to the local network that logged our hours, just the ordering/inventory software. I didn't even get a prorated Christmas bonus because that counts as benefits, and you have to work 90 days to receive those. Cue malicious compliance. I discovered that if I left the house 30 minutes early, my 80-minute commute would take less than 25. So instead of showing up around 8:30 and chilling in my car for a bit, so I was working at 9, I was there at 7 with the warehouse guy sending emails. I started working through lunch as I ate at my desk, as opposed to burning an hour off campus or in the break room. I didn't even realize I was losing an hour a day to lunch. I also discovered that if I stayed till 6:30, I'd get home by 7, as opposed to leaving a little after 5 and getting home around 6:30. So I spent an extra 5 hours a week away from home and worked an extra 22 compared to the 35 I was getting paid for before I figured it out. With the overtime, I was clocking north of $2,000 more than intended every month. And oddly enough, no one even noticed until the internal auditor verified W-2s and noticed that I made significantly more than the branch manager. I didn't hit my commission cap until late November, so I spent the rest of the year training with the tech and/or the warehouse guy. Both of them smoked. They tried to put me on the same salaried comp plan I had originally agreed to, but it was enough of a pay cut to qualify for constructive dismissal, so I got to quit and still collect unemployment for a month before I found another gig. Am I the jerk for failing a student and causing him to repeat 7th grade? I'm a middle school teacher. These days, we only have online school, and knowing how bad virtual learning can get, I try to meet with each of my students one-on-one online on a weekly basis. During this time, I would go over homework with my students and give them feedback on it. I have one grade 7 student, Zach, who forgets to do his homework on an almost weekly basis. Every week I meet with him, he tells me that he forgot to do his homework but promises to make up for it next week. However, he never does. I tried to work with him on ways he could remember to do his homework and even got his parents involved. However, it appears that nothing works. Homework is not part of our students' final grades, so I can't really dock marks for it. We only grade our students on their test marks. Unfortunately, Zach's marks have been quite poor as well, and he has a D+ in math. Passing grade is C-. When a student is on the cusp of passing, the school tells us that it will be based on our discretion on whether the student can pass or not, and that they will listen to our recommendation at the end of the year. Personally, I believe that Zach is very capable of learning new things, but often gets distracted by other things and forgets to do his homework. As such, I believed that Zach deserved to pass the course if he could show me that he was willing to work for it. During our scheduled meeting, I got Zach and his parents with him on the call. I told them that Zach was failing math, but I was willing to give him an extra assignment to boost his grade. I gave him the assignment, which was a 2-page math worksheet covering everything we did this year, and told him that he had 1 week to complete it and hand it in, and if he got more than 60% of the answers correct, he would pass. On our next meeting, I asked Zach to give me his homework. Zach then sheepishly told me that he completely forgot about his homework. Because of this, I told him that he would fail the course and sent an email to our school principal recommending that. The principal then asked me if I was sure, since Zach was failing another subject as well, and if he failed math, he would be held back a grade. I told the principal that I was sure, and that Zach did not meet my expectations for passing. So because of me, Zach has to repeat 7th grade. I'm not sure if I did the right thing, since Zach was clearly able to put in the work, as I've seen him do so during class, but just didn't have the discipline to do so. Well, what do you think? Was the teacher the jerk here or not? Please let us know.
I want to know why those parents aren't making that kid do his homework.
In 2020, I destroyed a handful of Christmases for a handful of families. This year, I will destroy even more. This story is a little different than the usual. It's also long because I don't have people to vent to. I'm a manager at a local barbecue chain with 3 restaurants in town, some franchises in a couple different states, and a booming nationwide food shipping system. I worked in our drive-thru and our dining room for years, and last year got the manager promotion in our office. So now I mostly deal with taking call-in orders, catering, paperwork, and inputting shipping orders. Our shipping is bonkers, okay? We input over 3,000 orders per week for a whole month and a half during Christmas, and our plant was working overtime every day just to get them out. We have a deal with a popular shipping company for some discounts, shipping prices, and guaranteed 2-day delivery since it's food, and generally it goes really smooth and there's little issue. Well, near Christmas, the lockdown medicine was shipped out on an emergency level. The shipping company we work with had its headquarters here in town, and over half of their fleet was reallocated to shipping the medicine overnight without warning. For us, this meant that every shipping order we'd put in for the week before Christmas got pushed back by a week. December 24th, the last day orders could be received, was a Thursday, so roughly 5,000 orders had to be delivered in 3.5-day period. This made for some unfortunate threat-level midnight unplugging my phone just to get a moment of peace, holiday-ruining craziness. A lot of customers were super understanding, more than willing for me to push their delivery back with no guarantee it'll get there before Christmas because of the circumstances. I'm grateful to them. However, as usual, there were 37 instances, I counted, where someone said I ruined their Christmas dinner and presents, and in one instance, their sanity. Trust me, customer, right back at you. Some were casual, forget yous. I don't know what we're going to eat for Christmas dinner now. Or,
Can't you just ship it through a different company?
2 interactions have stuck with me. 1. Order going up north. It's December 24th, and she hasn't got it yet and is leaving town in a couple of hours. Understandably frustrating. She's the first customer I'm talking to at 7:30 in the morning. Customer.
It was supposed to be delivered yesterday, and I'm leaving for another state in 2 hours. This is my family's Christmas dinner. What are we supposed to do if it's not here before I leave?
Me. I'm so sorry, ma'am. When I pull up the tracking information, it says it's out for delivery, but I don't have a specific time listed here. Once we send it to shipping, it's out of our hands.
Out of your hands? So you just hand it to the company and hope for the best? What kind of business model is that?
Me. This is where I explain the shipping delay reasoning.
Well, that's just ridiculous. I didn't order medicine. I ordered barbecue for my family. So what? If it comes in after I leave, it's just going to sit on my porch, rotting for a week?
Me. Unfortunately, I can't say what time it will be delivered, but if it's after the time you leave, we can issue you a reshipment for January or a complete refund. I apologize for the issue, ma'am, but this is the most I can do for you at the moment.
So, I'm not going to be here when it's delivered, and it's going to sit rotting on my front porch? You can't see any more information on when I'll receive it?
Unfortunately, it only says by the end of the day.
So it's going to sit at my house for a whole week rotting? Someone is going to see that and break into my house.
Me? Excuse me?
Someone is going to see this food rotting on my front porch and rob me because they can tell no one is home. My family is going to get robbed over Christmas because of you!
I didn't know how to respond, so I stayed silent.
So when I get back from my mother's and my house is robbed, it's going to be because of you and your crappy company. What's your name? I want to make sure I get the right person on the police report.
I give her my name, she yells at me a little bit more, and I hang up. It's 7 in the morning, dog. 20-ish minutes later, I see her number calling again and let it ring because I don't want to be yelled at again. She calls again, so I take a deep breath and pick up cheerfully.
The shipping company says they can't track my package without a shipping number. Give that to me.
Me. Okay, let me get that pulled up for you. I can hear her talking to someone else while I'm pulling her order back up, and I hear her call me stupid and laugh. Whatever. I get the tracking info pulled up and give her the tracking number, which she makes me repeat twice slowly.
Great. Now, can you tell me why you didn't think to give that to me the first time I called?
Me. Ma'am, if you requested it, I would have handed it over at the beginning. I apologize that we had to speak again.
You should have known I would have needed the number. Are you just stupid?
I don't say anything.
Right. Well, I hope I ruined your Christmas like you ruined mine.
Hangs up. You're not gonna believe what happens in this video, so please come watch it next and we'll see you when you get there.
And please support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a special shout out in our next video. And now you can have us make any kind of video you'd like us to. Just head over to our Fiverr, link pinned in the comments below.